Welcome to the Trashcats Trashcast. I'm Richard.
I'm Steven.
And today we're going to talk about the art of war. When we were writing this, we couldn't decide between calling it the art of war or the art of terror, but this episode is going to cover both. The beautiful and brutal aesthetics and imagery of war and terror. The iconography of evil.
Yes. Dude, this is going to be wicked.
Yeah, this is going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
But first, Steven, how was your week?
Man, dude, honestly, it's been a decent week, but it's been like a very full week. I just finished school. So I graduated for the second time, and now I got to do certifications and stuff. So I didn't have the wave of relief yet that I was hoping for. But it's good.
Got that doctorate in the mail coming.
Exactly. My PhD.
With the lab coat with that, and all that. You get a lab coat when you get the doctorate, right? That's how that works.
Just it comes standard with it.
Yeah.
I watched the other night YMH 4 with Sam, his brother Will, and then my brother John, and that was a blast, man. That shit was pretty ridiculous. And then tomorrow I get to meet my new kitten that I'm picking up.
Young kitty.
Little kitty. She looks like a tiger. She got little stripes, and she's like super vocal. It'll be fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. What about you?
Mostly a very chill week. I started with the new business I'm with. Like I said, I'm going to be running the food truck there.
Yeah.
I actually got you go out on the truck today and drive it around, or not today, this week. I got to drive it around. I was worried about it, not because it's, a big fucking truck, but because it's not mine. And, with you're driving other people's shit. It's weird.
Makes me anxious.
Yeah, but it was super easy. It was a lot. Number one thing I was worried about was like the brakes. Like when you hit brakes on something, when you have a lot of momentum going, you don't want it to jolt. Right. But it was, it's calibrated for that. It's really nice. Also, I got my first vaccine shot, so we're gonna ride the Moderna dragon through this podcast.
Yeah, I just got my. I got the Pfizer one, the 2-shot, and I just got the second one this week. But hopefully you're feeling good so far. Hopefully it'll be smooth sailing.
Arm's sore as fuck, but other than that, I have no symptoms so far.
Good. You got any honorable mentions?
I sure as hell don't.
I don't know why I ask when we write it ahead of time.
Well, because you're trying to be fair. Maybe I forgot to put it in there. You never know.
All right, so this first one, dude, this is like a secret for the listeners. This is one of my all-time favorite artists. There's not I like a ton of art. It's like the same with music, especially rap, where it's like I really might like a piece or a song by somebody, but it's rare when there's like an artist where I'm like, I just fucking love everything they do. And this is one of them. This person's name is Ivan, and I don't know how to say the last name. Do you want to try it?
Soliev?
Soliev. So the Instagram account is soliev.black. It's SOLYAEV.BLACK. Dude, I just think this shit is gorgeous.
Is this actually I said actually like I was from the Midwest real strong there. Is this a new, I know this artist, you've sent me this artist a while ago. But it looks like I don't think I'm actually following this page. I feel like I did follow them in the past, but did they have to reboot their shit?
Something like that may have happened. I also feel like the posts on this page have changed a lot. I feel like they've done a lot more work that isn't currently on here. But everything they do, I fucking love.
I lied, actually. I am following them.
It's almost like a demented, liquid, metal version of Disney. in some moments, and then other times it's just like raw black mount. Everything's on these flat blacks and it's all melty. I think most of it's done digitally, but it's done with like almost pointillism brushes. There's all these like gritty dot work and like stark whites, and it's just such beautiful stylized work.
You know, say the graininess kind of effect it has is, you know, there's so many other pieces have her. That's a bold move. It's hard to, in my opinion, it's hard to make that look like good.
Right. It's hard to pull off this.
Yeah, it's when in the age of, you know, everything high def and everything, it's to make it look like it's not low res. It's meant to be this way.
Yeah.
I think you see that more with the animated ones they've got. It looks right. It looks cohesive. It's nice.
Yeah, and if it wasn't compressed through Instagram, I know it would look even a little crispier too. But
I'm sure
some of these motion graphics are so cool and like psychedelic. But you just have to see his work. It's just so unique. I just love this so much. I recently
there's one that's got.
Good.
I was gonna say that there's one here that's got like it's like the second post currently the second post on the page from the most recent. It's like it's a moving thing with lines, and there's like little like almost like worms. I'm trying to think of a better like drips
like lily
that are
pads.
all these with all these textures on them, and it's just I feel like it's breaking my monitor. Because of the moving lines and textures that it's my old ass monitor is not prepared for.
I love some of the early ones, like that. It almost looks like his version of Disney, like the Pluto-y ones, and then there's like the black metal deer, and it's just so it's like stuff like this. I find way more evil and brutal than like a death metal artist who does like hardcore gore stuff. You know what I mean? Like this is way more subtle and it's not as graphic, but it feels way darker to me.
Yeah, it's almost like something that you shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah, like you stumbled into the black void in a dream and you're seeing these deformed, stylized bodies and weird things going on.
Dark web art.
Yeah, I just love it. So check them out. Second one I was just going to shout out because it kind of goes with their episode. Since we're looking at terror, war, iconography shit. There's a new documentary on QAnon on HBO. It's called Q Into the Storm. It's a 6-part documentary series that charts a labyrinth journey to uncover the forces behind QAnon. First off, I think QAnon's garbage, but it's very interesting. But if you're an artist, you should watch at least like a little bit of the first episode just to catch the intro, because the motion graphics art they did for this intro is so fucking dope and weird.
Hell yeah.
We're checking out just for that, but it also deals with the foundations of 8chan, dark web, and politics. It's so wacky and weird. It's a very fun one. So definitely check out that. Third one. So this is kind of a weird personal one. But you know how I told you my aunt wanted to check out the show?
Yeah.
So I wanted to give her a shout out just in case she happens to get through 20 episodes of bullshit.
Oh my God, yeah.
If she does, oh my God. But
what a trooper.
Right. I've mentioned her before. So I do like landscaping stuff over their house, like their gardens and property. It's like this nice like 7-acre estate kind of. It's like a weird paradise. It's got like beautiful plants everywhere and rolling hills straight out of Spirited Away. And she's just been so kind to me. And I've had so many places in my life where I was supposed to get sober and didn't. And this was one of these places that she always gave me work when I needed to and just allowed me to like work through shit there. And that place means a lot to me, and I'm super grateful to her. So I just wanted to say hi. Thank you, Aline. If you ever hear this, I love you guys very much.
Thank you, Aline.
And then last one real quick, super relevant to our episode, this Instagram page called Counter Future. And this page, this guy like travels the world taking photographs of crazy politics, war photos. I think he was a correspondent of some sort, but this page is kind of just an aesthetic page of really gritty looks at the stuff we're going to be talking about today. So if you want to see some weird, fucked up shit, that's a great page to check out. And with that, we'll get done. And you want to kick us off with our episode?
I sure would. I'd like to read a quote from the person who is whose name is synonymous with the art of war, Sun Tzu. This quote reads, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting."
Yes, and that's exactly what this is all about.
Right. So we as a species have used terrifying imagery for our own protection for as long as we've known how to kill one another. We can conjure offensive visuals to terrify our enemies before even facing them in battle. This is art as a weapon. The imagery and propaganda associated with war and terror is a tool used by the operating party to either instill fear in the enemy faction or to create a further bias or unionizing of the operating party's allies. The object is always the same, though: to strengthen your side by using people's reactionary minds against themselves, to strike fear in the heart of the enemy. Whether it's in the manipulation of contrast and colors, bold or subtle imagery, all the way to the words used to phrase a sentence, there's literally an art and science to the way effective propaganda makes you feel. Oftentimes it's subtle, operating in your subconscious without you even realizing it. Other times, the art of war is screaming in your face, accusatory and terrorizing.
Dude, that made me want to like paint my face and go into battle. Oh, fuck.
Go Braveheart on him, boy.
Yeah, dude, I love this shit. So the art of war takes many shapes, but one of the most common is wartime propaganda. I think that's what kind of comes to mind to most people about this topic, and we're gonna kind of start with that, and then we're gonna get into all the crazy shit.
Yeah.
So this is an excellent excerpt from an article from the American Historical Association about wartime propaganda. It uses words and word substitutes in trying to reach a goal: pictures, drawings, graphs, exhibits, parades, songs, and other devices. Propaganda can be concealed or open, emotional or containing appeals to reason, or a combination of emotional and logical appeals. Propaganda in wartime must seek to demoralize enemy morale. A primary objective of propaganda aimed at enemy nations is to break down their will to fight. It seeks to lower the enemy's will to resist, and it does this in several ways. One is to picture the military successes of the propagandist's side. Another is to picture the armed might and economic power that the enemy has to face. Yet another is to picture the morale superiority of the cause against which the enemy is fighting. It is part of the nation's strategic plan to intimidate enemy leaders, to separate them from their people, and to break down resistance by producing evidence that the mass of the enemy people have been deceived or misled. It's classic.
Yeah. One of the most recognized symbols on the planet is like the swastika.
Yeah.
So it's corrupted by agents of hate. The swastika is the universal symbol of bigotry and white nationalism.
It's so visceral. Like everyone has some sort of reaction when seeing such a simple design.
Yeah, it's not complicated. Like, it's simple. It's a very easy to render design. It's an ancient religious icon in some cultures. It was used as a symbol of divinity and spirituality in Indian regions, including Hinduism and Buddhism. In the Western world, of course, it's a symbol. Well, excuse me, it was a symbol of good luck until the 1930s, when it became a feature of the Nazi symbolism as an emblem for the Aryan race. As a result of World War II and the Holocaust, many people in the West still strongly associate it with Nazism and anti-Semitism. The swastika continues to be used as a symbol of good luck and prosperity in Hindu and Buddhist countries, including Nepal, India, Mongolia, Indonesia, Thailand, China, Korea, Singapore, and Japan, among many others. It's commonly used in Buddhist and Hindu marriage ceremonies as well. It's not, it's I guess like you said, the visceral reaction. I'm sure that's felt all around the world still. And, but most of the time, in people that weren't, I guess, affected to the same propaganda, the same imagery that we were, during World War II. And I see it differently.
And I think with that said, that it still should have that reaction.
Oh,
yeah. There's what we just read is not downplaying that at all. It has reputation for very good reasons. But it's amazing that so much hatred and power can be put in a symbol. That's...
Yeah.
And the Nazis were influenced by all kinds of magic occult shit Hitler was into. And it's crazy how much energy can go into symbols, whether it's imagery or things like a swastika. Yeah. Did you have them? I remember my grade school, Catholic grade school had swastikas all over the tiles and shit.
I didn't. Well, see, I was going to say we had them in our high school building. The building was actually built in 1831, and I noticed we had some there. I want to go back and check now because I went to Fairview for elementary, and it was a German bilingual school that was built in. It was built before, of course, World War II shit.
I'm guessing they probably removed them.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I would imagine so.
Because I know a lot of modern buildings, they've slowly got rid of them more and more over the years, but especially if it was a part German school, they're probably we got to get this shit out.
The question is if they were able to do that before it became a national, or not a national, a state preserved building. I know that's true with the high school. That's a state landmark. And Fairview was as well. It's just an old ass building.
Dude, it really is sad though, because the original meanings of it were so beautiful. It's a symbol of peace kind of shit. And the Nazis hijacked and perverted this beautiful symbol and turned it into something that became a universal symbol of hatred and evil in service of their propaganda of fear. The Nazis were experts in changing the meaning of art to fit their intentions, and they did this a lot with lots of different forms of art, paintings, film, especially writing. This is so much easier to do when you control an entire nation's media through tyranny. Just as the swastika was perverted, many arts and writers found their creative works corrupted to serve Nazi propaganda. An excellent example of this is the philosophy writing of Friedrich Nietzsche's. I'm definitely biased on this because I fucking love Nietzsche, but it is well known that as Nietzsche lost his sanity, in part to his old age, and I believe he had syphilis, and he started going crazy as he got older, and he lived in a madhouse, and then they eventually shipped him off to the fucking mountains to be alone, and that's where he wrote. He was still writing at that point, but I don't know if it was older or younger, but his sister, she took control, legal control over all of his writing in the estate, and she was a big supporter of the Nazi Party, and she took control of his life's work and purposely allowed it to be edited to support of Hitler. And at one point, she even met him, and it was all to an extent, a conspiracy. So, when you read Nietzsche's work today, it's our best guess at his writing being re-edited prior to the Nazis' changes, which is very unfortunate. And a ton of artists throughout history There were tons of artists throughout history that, because of like fucked up shit, tyrannical governments, they often embraced the artist so they could, get their work out.
Yeah.
For example, the Nazis were also, they're always been known for their sharp and intimidating uniforms.
Yeah.
Which were, I don't get why not as many people know this, but all the Nazi uniforms were designed by no other than the fashion icon Hugo Boss. Hugo Ferdinand Boss, born in July of 1885, he died in 1948. Was a German fashion designer and businessman. He was the founder of the fashion house Hugo Boss AG. He was an active member of the Nazi Party as early as 1931 and remained loyal to Nazi Germany ideology throughout the duration of the party's existence. Somehow, Hugo's legacy as a fashion icon survived his Nazi affiliation, and that's just fucking garbage.
Yeah, that's some hot bullshit.
I will say it is hard to know, like I researched this a little bit, but without like really going into it, it's hard to know what the real truth of the story is. Like, it's hard to know if people were, and it seems like not this way with Hugo. It's like he was in early on supporting the Nazis and did it his whole life. But there's lots of other cases where artists, it's like, are they supporting these regimes because they have to or because they want to? And it gets kind of confusing.
There was here's actually something I learned that the reason that Fanta was created was so that Coca-Cola could continue to sell products in Germany without being like Coca-Cola still working in Germany.
That makes a lot of sense.
I might need fact checking on that, but I did learn that from a source years ago.
Well, there's a ton of other companies that did, just like Hugo Boss, survive no problem. It's fucked up.
And of course, the U.S. and many other Nazi-opposing countries, they also participated in propaganda, for both noble and ill-intended purposes.
Yeah,
like Rosie the Riveter, a.k.a. Strong Woman.
She's gangster as fuck, man. I like her.
Man. Rosie the Riveter is a cultural icon of World War II. She represents the women who worked in the factories and shipyards producing ammunition and supplies. These women replaced the male workers who joined the military. Rosie the Riveter is used as a symbol of American feminism. Similar images of women war workers appeared in other countries like Britain and Australia, usually like different names, but like Wendy the Welder and stuff like that.
She's always got her bicep up, flexing.
Oh yeah, man. She's ready to rock. Images of women workers were widespread in the media in formats such as government posters, and commercial advertising was heavily used by the government to encourage women to volunteer for wartime services in factories. While men were away, these women not only raised the kids, but they kept the economy running to support the troops.
Yeah. Straight gangster.
It's, it really, the beginning of some, I guess, equality shit that wasn't seen before, and it was like, oh, now we need you.
Right. It should have been, much earlier, but, she represented a positive change.
Right.
I remember doing a grade school history project on World War II propaganda, and specifically the loose lips sink ships posters, because they were so crazy. They were at the time all over the country, and it was an attempt to embrace patriotism and military loyalty, but it was like kind of fucked up because it depicts all these ships burning it and sinking into the ocean, and the implication is like, don't snitch, basically. That you can't talk, because it could be overheard by the enemy and kill our troops. And it's just
something, don't say anything.
Right, it's wild. It's wild.
You heard it here first. Loose lips sink ships. It's not just a rat song.
Right. That was like the first anti-snitch song. Even Disney was heavy propaganda. I remember the first time watching those were so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember being too young to understand what was going on, and it was just like, this is a goofy episode of this cartoon, I guess.
right. Disney produced many posters and tons of films with characters such as Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, in support of U.S. war efforts. And they were pretty fucking trippy. Watching Donald Duck in a Nazi uniform is just like, it feels wrong as a kid. You're like, what is this?
I don't know. Donald Duck's got some strong, weird energy. He's got a wild fucking string going on there.
Oh, shit. One of these films was titled Der Führer's Face, originally titled A Nightmare in Neuseeland, or Donald Duck in Neuseeland, is a 1943 American animated anti-Nazi propaganda short film produced by Walt Disney Productions. It's created in 1942 and released in January of 1943. The cartoon, which features Donald Duck in a nightmare setting working at a factory in Nazi Germany, was made in an effort to sell war bonds and is an example of American propaganda during World War II. Some of them like that were just kind of like funny. Like it was like super, like it showed how bad the enemy was and was like trying to be very patriotic. And this is why we're better off in the land of the free, that kind of bullshit.
Yeah. But
some of these are like fucked up. It's like crazy that Disney could have made them, you know?
Yeah.
Some of these films included very, very racist, often anti-Japanese imagery, such as there was one with Popeye titled "Scrap the Japs" from
Jesus
1940.
fuck.
It's like like what the fuck? These images were based on pre-existing images of the Japanese that the American people had in their minds, and we're not even going to say specifics. There's tons of examples of Japanese or Asian stereotypes that are bullshit. And it had a lot to do with fear of immigration and the war. Because of the racism, the cartoon, along with some other World War II cartoons, that are now banned from being broadcast in most countries.
Yeah.
It is also worth noting that prior to Disney's war propaganda, the company was facing financial collapse, and many speculate the propaganda films is what saved Walt Disney's cartoon empire, because they were like broke as fuck, and they did like, I'm pretty sure it's hundreds of these films.
That's really wild to think about.
Yeah.
That if it wasn't for some of these fucked up movies, that we wouldn't have Frozen 2.
Dude, it's crazy. Now, so in the past, we've talked about some of the cool things Dr. Seuss has done, and then we also kind of were like, but we know he's done some fucked up shit. So as much as I love a lot of his work, I know he did some bullshit too. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, let's talk about some of the fucked up shit Dr. Seuss did.
Real quick. It is bullshit, though, that they've made like Dr. Seuss a cancel culture thing. Like that shit's
that
also
whole story's
dumb.
fucking stupid.
Yeah.
The way I understand that story is that the Dr. Seuss is like the company, the family or whatever, like they were the ones that made the decision to stop producing these books. And, it's like it was their call, and like wasn't even like it was like I forget the two titles, but like never heard of either one of them.
Well, the whole cancel culture thing is just so fucking stupid, and the whole right wing shit needs to like grow up and get over cartoons. Like, it's ridiculous.
Getting on Fox News and reading Green Eggs and Ham. Theodore Seuss Geisel. Theodore Seuss Geisel, a.k.a. Dr. Seuss, was the chief editorial cartoonist for the New York newspaper PM from 1940 to 1948. During this time, he published nearly 400 cartoons that, among other things, praised FDR's policies and supported civil rights for blacks and Jews. He also staunchly supported America's war effort. Geisel was vocally anti-Japanese during the war and had no trouble with rounding up an entire population of U.S. citizens and putting them in camps. And here's a quote from him. This is a rough one. Quote, but right now, when the Japs are planting their hatchets in our skulls, it seems like a hell of a time for us to smile and warble. Brothers, it's a rather flabby battle cry. If we want to win, we've got to kill Japs, whether it depresses John Hayes Holmes or not. We can get palsy-wowsy afterward with those that are left. End quote.
So that was Dr. Seuss?
Dr. Seuss. Dr. Cat in the fucking Hat Seuss.
So, like, I think the whole argument over cancel culture is dumb as fuck, but I don't think it's dumb for holding people accountable
right
for their shit. I think those are two very different things, but it's like, why the fuck were they allowed to get away with saying shit even then?
Right, no.
It's crazy.
Because there's a war on, Stephen.
Dude, oh my God. But there will always be a war. We're always going to find someone to kill. There's
always a reason. There's always an excuse they can make up. Nah, fucking hold people accountable for the shit they do.
We are doing an episode on why I hate this country.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, that'll be another two-parter for sure. So after the war, and this is, I guess, a recorded thing. He visited Japan. He saw the wreckage of the bombing in Hiroshima. The following year, he released Horton Hears a Who. The book's helpful, inclusive refrain, "A person is a person, no matter how small," is pretty far from his words about the Japanese a decade earlier.
Right.
He even dedicated the book to my great friend Mitsugi Nakamura of Kyoto, Japan. So the story goes that I guess he went there and realized he was wrong and apologized and took back his statements and regretted what he had said before in the past.
Oh,
which that's good.
Yeah.
So
is that an honest thing?
I don't know.
Interesting.
That's how history is written like that.
Well, it definitely changes the kind of the subtext of Horton Hears a Who. But if if that quote was meant in good faith to his great friend and wasn't like a sarcastic thing, yeah, I don't know that. It doesn't absolve things, but it right, people grow too.
Exactly. Yeah, it's on the right path. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Give me any reason to keep liking Dr. Seuss.
Dude, shit
twist
like,
my arm. It's all right.
Shit like this is confusing, though, because I feel like regardless of who's fighting the argument on what side, that it's always painted as a black and white thing with no subtleties. It's confusing. It is.
Yeah. And also, while we're on, some of the art of it here, during World War II stuff. So U.S. soldiers are also known for their artistic designs of planes and on bombs.
Dude, they go so hard. They're crazy.
They're so fucking cool. Many soldiers decorated their weaponry with reminders of their family or those they fought for. Over time, it often evolved into intimidating imagery or battlefield humor. These Bible quotes were carved on guns. Troop flags decorated with the Grim Reaper or skulls and crossbones. Bombs were painted with cartoonishly evil grins. And planes were given ridiculous paint jobs with big sharp teeth and titles like Spitfires and Pale Horses and Bringers of Death. This also where the imagery of pinup women became incredibly popular, as well as old school military tattoos.
Yeah, so many pinup girls on planes, that's for sure.
Yeah, fucking that's one of the I've always loved the pinup style. That's one of my when I draw like my own stuff, I like that style. I thought about if I was gonna get when I was younger, I thought about getting like a tattoo of my own work done. But like because I love the realism so much, but I realized like we talked about before, like I'd be having someone else do it, and I don't want that. If I was going to have someone else do it, I want a good pinup style something.
It has to be the right person.
Yeah.
I really don't like the pinups. I don't.
That's fair.
But like when you draw things similar, I like it a lot, and I think it's because it goes through your lens. But the old school pinup style, I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. It feels weird. I
feel that. I usually I like I think I like to try to take the old school pinup style with a modern, like alternative image kind of thing. Make it feel more modern style, I guess.
They do the posing really well, though.
That's my main thing. I like is the cool. It's a nice posing. There's no there's no tangents and shit like that. It looks really good.
Definitely. In more modern times, this is a really weird one, and I actually have known. I've had friends that are soldiers, and then it's weird. It's a very weird thing to be friends with a soldier, because when they come back, it's always so fucked up. But I've known people that have seen this a lot too. Frank Frazetta, right? Mm-hmm. Frank Frazetta, and I've always enjoyed a lot of his fantasy painting. But the one in particular, the painting of the Deathbringer, it's a famous fantasy painting of a dark warrior on horseback, and it is like notorious among soldiers. They use it on banners, they get tattoos of it, and it's just like dark warrior bringing death. And you see it like a lot. And like there's cases where the artists like object to their art being used that way. Not specifically with this, but there's lawsuits over it, like it would be a very weird thing for your art to be for good or bad reasons for it to be subverted into someone else's cause would be a very conflicting thing.
Yeah. I've always liked Frank Frazetta's work. Actually, when I was in
great shit.
Like middle school and high school, and then it wasn't until much later when I realized like how old a lot of his work is, and just completely separate from so much of what else was going on during that time.
Yeah, I think some of the favorites of his for me are when it's like that Herculean look where it's the guy fighting the big beast. I always like that David and Goliath kind of shit.
I think it's funny you went with like a Hercules reference on that. I was going to say like a Conan, but yeah, it's the same thing basically of just just a really beefy dude against this gigantic, something that's much more of a threat than he is. Right,
exactly. Being, the small guy, the small dog in a big fight, whatever. So much of war, like these are, so far we've been working with examples of like actual symbols or actual pieces of art and how it has affected war and those type of things, propaganda. But a lot of the times, the art of war is more of a subtle thing, where it's a deception. The smoke and mirrors on the battlefield kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So during the D-Day invasion, the Allies tricked the Germans into thinking the invasion would be led at a different nearby location, allowing fake communications to be intercepted. There was like a couple ways they did this, and I don't think it was D-Day, but there was one example where they had like they put out reports of sharks eating sailors that went overboard, and they purposely put documents in sharks. Like they let the sharks eat these documents and killed the sharks so they were floating. So then when Nazis would come across the sharks looking for things that they might have that the shark could have ate on the soldier that gave them intel, they would find these documents. You know what I mean? Like
that's so fucking cool. I don't know. It's so it's wild. Fucked up, but it's so good.
Right. So the art of war in many cases was to deceive. So there were multiple sleight of hand missions that allowed the successful invasion of Normandy by catching the German forces by surprise. So the Allies used various deception techniques, such as preparing. This is so wild. On the documentaries I've seen, it felt like a cartoon, like it was unbelievable. But they would prepare nearby fields full of inflatable tanks, jeeps, weaponry, artillery, and they're constructing these blow-up versions of all of this shit. Fields full of it.
Yeah.
So that from afar, they were convincing enough to divert Nazi troops. This is like real shit. Like D-Day invasion used blow-up tanks. Like what the fuck?
It's so fucking cool.
The Allies also dropped thousands of miniature soldier dolls attached to parachutes into nearby areas as a diversion. So from afar, it looks like a human being parachuting into battle, and it's thousands of these dolls. Like, it's genius.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then they managed to scramble enemy radar systems by airdropping massive clouds of shredded aluminum foil scraps. Just smoke and mirrors. It's just outstanding. I'm sure there's so many other cool examples of this shit on the battlefield, but it's crazy to think that some of these artistic tricks altered history.
Yeah, I love examples of, mind over matter, like the brains over brawn thing. It's always a fun, tactic to read, when people can implement that successfully.
Right. And then, so sometimes like the art of war is the action itself, is the trick itself. But at the same time, film was film was worldwide during these years. So just the same way as images spark reactions in those who see them, the actions of people can also create powerful imagery that was often captured on film, and the rest of the world would see it, and it changed so many courses of history.
Yeah. For example, the protester at Tiananmen Square, usually known as Tank Man or the unknown protester or unknown rebel. It's the nickname of the unidentified Chinese man who stood in front of a column of tanks leaving Tiananmen Square the day after the Chinese military had suppressed the Tiananmen Square protests. As the lead tank maneuvered to pass by the man, he repeatedly shifted his position in order to obstruct the tank's attempted path around him. The incident was filmed and shared to a worldwide audience. Internationally, it is considered one of the most iconic images of all time. Inside of China, the image and the accompanying events are subject to censorship. There's no reliable information about the identity or fate of the man. The story of what happened to the tank crew is also unknown. At least one witness has stated that Tank Man was not the only person who had opposed the tanks during the protest. Tank Man is unique in that he was the only one who was photographed and recorded on video.
Dude. Man, that video and the next one, visceral reaction.
Yeah. It's really, it's humanizing in a such a strong animalistic way. I'm not sure an easier way to say that. I know there's a word that I'm looking for, but
it's just a everyday dude. Maybe you remember, was he holding a briefcase too?
I think so.
And
now that you say that, I can see it in my head.
But yeah, he was just a regular everyday dude. I'm
looked like he was on his way home from work and shit.
Yeah, and he's just like, fuck this war. I'm standing in front of this tank. You'll have to kill me. And they didn't want to run him over. I mean, it was beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
What's that quote? I fucking love it. The gears of war or whatever will grind, but I'm going to totally butcher it, but we have to throw our bodies into the gears,
Yeah.
Ah, man. This next one is one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, this one's really brutal. So the burning monk. When you even hear those words, you can automatically see the picture in your head.
Or you should.
Yeah. So there's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk burned himself to death at a busy Saigon Road intersection on the 11th of June in 1963. The monk was protesting the persecution of Buddhists by the Roman Catholic government. Photographs of his self-immolation were circulated widely around the world and brought attention to the policies of the Vietnamese government. John F. Kennedy said in reference to the photograph, "No news picture in history has generated so much emotion around the world as that one." The photographer Malcolm Brown won a Pulitzer Prize for his photograph of the monk's death, which is a note I left in there because it's like, I mean,
kind of weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I get it because that's a moment in human history that should never be forgotten.
Yeah, like it's so important he captured that moment, but it would be a double-edged sword to get an award for a photo like that.
Right, exactly.
But man, those photos, they're gorgeous. I mean, he is meditating through the flames.
The Buddhist monk did have his name is known. He's not like an unknown person. But my Vietnamese is not fantastic. I knew that I was going to butcher it, and I did not know how to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah.
So maybe on the next episode, by the next episode, I'll have rehearsed that one. It's one of those, say their name. They fucking did something amazing.
Yeah. And there's so many, like, from then till now, so many amazing films that have both shown, like, the bravery and the horrors of war that they change our perceptions. Like Schindler's List or even Apocalypse Now, and so much fucking in between. The Pianist was pretty good, but like those, I'm sure there's a ton of problems with a lot of those. But like, I don't know. I think seeing a lot of those things are important too.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie? I'm gonna fuck it up. Anthropod.
I have not. I've heard of it, of course.
Dude, this is like one of my recent favorites. I saw it semi-recently, about the same time as I saw 1917. And it's a close pick between the two. It's
really? Okay.
Really that good. It came out in 2016. It was directed by Sean Ellis, and it tells the story of Operation Anthropod, the World War II assassination of Reinhard Heydrich. And it was done by exile Czechoslovakian soldiers on May 27th, 1942. And dude, this movie, and I'm pretty sure most of the soldiers involved were also part Jewish. There's stuff going on with that too. But it is honestly one of the most intense and emotional films I had seen in a while, and I highly recommend watching it. I don't want to give too much up, but a large part of the movie, like they attempt this assassination of Heydrich, and they end up like getting found out, and they're in enemy territory, and they hold up in this beautiful cathedral. And the Nazis know where they're at. So it's like hundreds, if not thousands of Nazi troops trying to invade this cathedral where like 6 men are holding out. And
it's fucking terrifying.
Dude, it is so brutal. And like, you know, I don't, supposedly it didn't get great reviews, but they apparently had a real commitment to realism, to the true events. And I don't know, that movie affected me. It was just beautiful. Like, it's not a happy ending kind of movie, but it showed a lot of the brutality of war. And I think so often, especially with World War II shit, like we forget all the people that really did try to fight back, like earlier on, you know? It's easy to think of like the US or the Allies as heroes, but there were people giving their lives, throwing themselves in the gears to stop these horrific things,
right,
from its inception. I really want to watch, there's a recent one on Netflix called Photographer at Mulhausen. I looked up how to say that. It's one of the concentration camps, and it's about a photographer in the camp who's secretly taking photos and sneaking the film out. And it seemed like it would be a very good, like, important movie, but it's sometimes ones like that, it's like you got to be in the right state of mind to enjoy it because it's so heavy.
Yeah, so much of that stuff I find it hard. Like, I want to watch, I mean, even Anthropod, as you're describing it, it's like I want to watch that, but I need to make sure that, like, and it should be easier lately because I'm not working as much, but
you gotta be
like when I come home from work, I can't do serious. I need something that's easy to drone in and out of.
Are you watching anything funny lately?
Kind of. I'm watching Fringe.
You were telling me about that. That's
oh my
cool.
God, I fucking love Fringe. It's all sci-fi shit, but it's pretty funny.
Is that more fun or funny?
It's more drama.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But there's a lot of good, funny moments in it. The fucking mad scientist that's always taking psychotropic drugs and shit.
I've been doing it's my first watch. I'm doing Veep. It's Elaine from Seinfeld, Dreyfus, whatever.
Oh yeah,
and she's the vice president. It's a political comedy, but it is vicious. It's very funny.
Okay, cool. I looked into that. I hadn't started it yet.
You'll enjoy it.
I like her, so I'll start watching that one.
Fuck yeah! So we're ready for this hard right turn.
Yeah, we're gonna get a little switch it up, get the go from the wartime stuff. I mean, we're still kind of on the same,
but we're about
thing,
to kick it up a notch, get a little more brutal with the war.
So now we're gonna get into more of the terror aspects of the art of war. So this shit's all about the aesthetic and the imagery of terror. By striking fear into the hearts of people to wield power and control, the shit gets pretty brutal. I think one of the most simple and basic examples we can start off with is war paint. We see this throughout history by all kinds of cultures throughout history. Warriors would paint their face and bodies to psychologically intimidate their enemies on the battlefield. Oftentimes, the achievements of warriors were often reflected in the symbolic images of their war paint. This would often include spiritual symbols that to protect them in battle.
Yeah, and we can even see this kind of jokingly, but we even see this today in the hardcore black metal fanatics that do their panda paint, trying to look all evil and tough.
I never heard panda paint before. I always called it corpse paint.
Oh yeah, the real black metal fans call it panda paint.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm never going to call it anything but that now.
Now, this isn't exactly the same thing, but I feel like this is more like of a coming of age, the manhood stuff. But the alligator scarification, I unfortunately don't remember the name of the tribe, but they do the big scarifications of alligator hide that went as a coming of age ritual, and that's just so fucking beautiful.
Fucking like Killmonger and fucking Black Panther shit.
Yeah,
that looked wild as hell, man.
Yeah. So a lot of the terror stuff is more of it's more like performance art in theater, like the theater of war kind of shit, and like I think one of the good examples to go to first that people understand is the gladiators in the Colosseum. Like that was just all a big show, The lavishly brutal games that took place in the Colosseum were hugely effective propaganda stunts that showcased the limitless wealth and generosity of the emperors that staged them. To that end, the games had to be spectacular as possible, and the novel sight of exotic beasts fighting ferociously in their arena was a central feature of the festivities. I didn't know that when I first was learning about Colosseum shit, that they had all the animals. And that is like crazy. That shit's wild.
Fighting a hungry lion to survive and shit.
Yeah, like bow hunting giraffes or, fighting hippos with swords and shit. Indeed, the massive scale animal hunts that pitted the most exotic and fearsome beasts known to the ancient world against specialist hunters known as Venatores?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Cool. Were second in popularity only to the gladiators' combat in the public consciousness. These events are just like the massive high-stakes theater performances, but for the emperors to boost their popularity ratings. And they always had to make them bigger and more brutal than the previous one. I always thought it was super awesome that when a new emperor of Rome would rise to power, they would try to edit history, and they would either destroy all the statues of their predecessors, or they would just behead the statues and replace them with, versions of their face on the previous statue's body. That's brutal.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
that's so fucking narcissistic and broken.
And brilliant. It's crazy.
It's really, especially just replace the head. Like, that's so cost effective. I dig it. We learned when we were in Italy, one of the tour guides was telling us that you can tell certain things about old busts of people. If the nose is broken off, it could have been done in like transportation or something like that. But usually that was a sign of like, they were disgraced. So they would go and knock the fucking nose off the thing, or they would like, gouge out the eyes or some shit.
Dude, that's cool. I like that.
The little, symbolic things.
Yeah.
And, while we're talking about symbolism, so the KKK and other hate groups, they used to be able to wear all their bullshit like super openly. And today, of course, symbols of terror are used a lot more subtly, but their meaning is still the same, of course. In modern history, we see the power of branding and imagery with our police forces. From the thin blue line flags to Punisher skulls, the arts of war are used to show solidarity and support of police. And to be clear, the imagery used is fascinating and interesting to us, but fuck the police. This is... It's unacceptable a lot of the time here. So this is an excerpt from artnet.com. Frank the Punisher Castle, who Jerry Conway created with artists John Romita Sr. and Ross Andrew, first appeared in 1974 issue of Amazing Spider-Man. Since then, the character has amassed one of the highest body counts in the Marvel Universe, having killed 48,502 people as of 2011. So that's 25, that's 35 years of the Punisher almost killed 50,000 people.
That's the anti-hero. You know, he was made to question all these things, and then his shit got co-opted.
Yeah. So that's all according to the series' then editor. The morally compromised anti-hero often resorts to torture, kidnapping, and coercion in his fight against crime and police corruption. Nevertheless, the character has been embraced by law enforcement and the military in the post 9/11 era. Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, who inspired the 1914 Clint Eastwood film American Sniper, wrote in his memoir that his unit painted the Punisher skull on their equipment during the Iraq War.
It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It's so fucking stupid. Like, you're supposed to, like, protect people and shit. How can you take your imagery that you would put on your war shit from a cartoon as a corrupt hero?
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense.
I loved the Punisher movie when it came out. I saw it in theaters. I enjoyed it. Just thinking of like, oh man, this dude's gonna go fucking, ape shit on these guys. And there's a scene where he's got like a grenade and had someone was like holding their arm out, and it was like if the grenade moved too much, they would, or it's like stuck to something, so if they moved it, they would die. He was like, it's 8 pounds, which isn't a lot, but when your arm's stretched out like this, it starts to weigh down pretty quick. And
I remember that.
That was so fucking good. And it was like, oh shit.
Dude, the Netflix version the show was pretty good too. And it's like, I'm pretty sure it was canceled in part because of all the shit with the police.
Yeah, I'd heard that. I didn't see the show, but I did hear that.
I don't think they ever announced that officially, but it seemed, people speculate that's very much why. But like, how is it acceptable at all that our police or armed forces are allowed to use that kind of symbolism?
Yeah, it's pretty telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Punisher skull was partially inspired by the Totenkopf, the skull and bones logo worn by Nazi SS during World War II. Like, that symbol, dude, that's like one of the most notorious throughout history. And it's like, this comic book writer, artist, like, of course it was, it's a skull's a skull, but like, that's the example you get it from. This character was meant to question these things. It's meant to be like, he does bad things, but, people enjoy it. It questions shit. But like, in real life, you can't be wearing that shit as a soldier or cop.
Right. Since then, the police have adopted the skull. Since the police have adopted the skull, the Punisher creator Gary Conway has been working to reclaim his art from police and the alt-right. In his response, Conway launched a t-shirt design initiative that's not affiliated with Marvel called Skulls for Justice, which is crowdsourcing artwork from people of color that incorporates the skull with Black Lives Matter themes. The funds, he told Forbes, are going to a Los Angeles chapter of the group. And here's a recent quote from his Twitter. As to the debate whether the Punisher symbol can ever be a symbol for justice, I agree that's an open question. What it must not be is a symbol of oppression. I want to deny police the use of the symbol by claiming it for Black Lives Matter. Call it irony.
Man, I think he's trying his best, but that's such a fucked up thing to happen to your art.
Yeah.
Like, God, that would suck.
Uphill battle when the people that are supposed to defend your rights for your work are the people that are using it for bullshit.
Yeah. And, police have always embraced symbols of death. And this goes back to the soldiers' battlefield humor. Mm-hmm. We can see this clearly with their affinity for Grim Reapers in their imagery. I just recently saw a documentary the other day where the detectives, they had like the outgoing stack of murder investigations were all stacked under a portrait of the Grim Reaper. And it's like, it's funny. It is funny. And so each officer would have to grab their murder case and they would have to first look at the picture of death, you know? And I think some of that is irony. Like when you're dealing with like just that much heavy shit all the time. I don't know. But I do think,
you need some kind of something to lift the weight of that burden. Right. I get that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this ironic and dark humor is something that only people in their situation can understand. I really do feel that way. Like, there's a reason soldiers have these dark senses of humor, and it's because they're trying to find ways to cope with shit that people shouldn't have to deal with. Like, yeah. And I don't think it's necessarily unethical, but I do think it is extremely inappropriate. And like, by embracing these kinds of imagery, it helps create an unhealthy culture among a group of a bunch of guys with guns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like somehow all this kind of shit, the Punisher skull, the Grim Reaper shit, it's all tied in with Pepe the Frog and all these other dumb clown world memes.
Yep. Welcome to the internet, baby.
Right. Jesus Christ. The clown world ones are funny as shit. It's so fucked up. So this is going to get super ridiculous. You ready?
So this was actually the first thing we talked about when we talked about doing this episode was mostly for this this topic right here. Steven was so fucking excited about it. And with so all excited. Right, he should be because it's really great. So Steven's going to take over this section here.
Cool. So we are going to look at DEA badges. So this shit is so fucking goofy. It's hard to believe it's real. And we're going to be linking back to an article by the Washington Post. And so it's real shit. It seems like it could not be real. And right. if you look up some of the stuff, Google image DEA badges, you'll see a lot of real ones, but you'll see some fake shit too. But this shit, like, find some articles. It is legit. This Washington Post article is titled, "The Oddly Beautiful and Sometimes Disturbing Artistic Talent of the Nation's Drug Cops." And the article begins. The skeleton swoops into the foreground wearing a tuxedo, top hat, pink-framed glasses. Behind him, a rainbow sky fades into a field of twinkling stars. He holds a syringe in one hand, then sending a celebratory squirt of its contents into the air. It looks like the type of scene you might see on a college dorm room poster celebrating drugs and the counterculture. But in fact, it's an embroidered uniform patch made for the members of the Drug Enforcement Administration's Dangerous Drug Intelligence Unit, a group that monitors major drug trafficking organizations. and it's just one of hundreds, perhaps thousands, of colorful and sometimes bizarre patches manufactured for various DEA divisions and task forces over the years. Patches aren't unique to the DEA. Their program and mission, there are program and mission patches associated with many federal agencies and programs. One estimates there are 20,000 in existence today, some of which are historic relics and others in use. The most famous may be the patches made for NASA's shuttle missions. That makes sense. But in the universe of federal patches, the DEA stand out for their outlandishness as well as for showing a lighter, even flamboyant side of the agency that often presents itself as straight-laced and straight-edge. Dude, if you ever get pulled over by a cop with these patches, you know you are fucked or dead. Like the Florida one, it's a Florida drug something patch. It shows alligators coming out of the water and a sign that says "Drug Traffickers Welcome" to imply that they feed drug dealers to the alligators. Like,
yeah, I was my initial thought was like, if you were like high as the ecstasy one is fucking crazy. If you were like high as fuck at a rave or some shit on ecstasy and a bunch of cops showed up and they had those patches on, like, how do you take that seriously when you're fucking, tripped out of your mind?
Yeah,
it would just be a continuation of the trip.
So we're gonna start scrolling through them here in a sec. So Sarah actually bought me one of these DEA patches, and it's a real DEA patch. Like this is a reproduction of it, but it's based off the real patch, and it's a beautiful piece of art. I got this one it's psychedelic blue, and it's for the Heroin Intelligence Unit, and it shows a Chinese dragon emerging from the water holding purple poppy flowers. Like, can you imagine being the graphic designer hired to make this for the DEA?
Dream job.
Dude, it's so much fun. All right, so let's scroll through some of these ones. This is from the Washington Post article.
Yeah.
What do you think of this first one?
I love the one they use for the title because I think I told you before, it reminds me of Eddie from the Iron Maiden.
It looks so similar.
Yeah, like the fucking skull with these rainbow tinted glasses on and a fucking needle in his hand. He's wearing a tuxedo and a top hat. He's fucking ready to roll.
This could have been a Van Halen cover.
Right, exactly.
And then the Ecstasy and Club Drug Enforcement Administration. This Grim Reaper is at a disco.
Yeah. So actually, while we're looking at these, let's do this too. I just got a jean jacket not that long ago, and I was looking at putting some patches on it. Let's pick me out a patch.
Right.
So far, I really like the Ecstasy and Club Drugs one.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty wild.
The next one, let's see, the High Risk Entry Apprehension Team, and this one. It's not even good art. It's just a joke of spelling DEA with death, right?
Yeah.
Is that what they're going for?
I don't think that was intentional. DEA Heat is how I read that. But yeah, it's all the same letters.
Yeah, this was for the raid jackets. That one's not super good. Operation Green Air, DEA, and FedEx with big marijuana leaves.
I like that one only because of the FedEx logo. Fucking snitching ass FedEx.
Oh my god. With an airplane and pot leaves. Then the Heroin Intelligence Unit. This dragon is so trippy holding. Yeah. Dude, I fucking love it. Oh my god. Counter narcotics. That one's kind of
it's kind of classic. Trippy.
Yeah. That's how most of them should be, right?
Yeah, you would think. It looks official. It looks like a badge, It looks like something a cop, a professional law enforcement officer should wear.
Right. And then Marijuana Eradication Team. It says the eagle has landed and it's a field of marijuana leaves with an eagle swooping.
That's a really good one.
The Eagles landed, boys.
Fucking A, that's a really good one.
Dude, some of these sell for thousands of dollars now as collector pieces.
Yeah, the next one reminds me of like some Judge Dredd shit.
Yeah.
Like some post-apocalyptic like future of like future cop like mine crime shit. The fucking Buchanan County Drug Strike Force. And it's got a sword and like these like lightning bolts on it.
It's like they're warning you, we're going to send you to the chair.
Right.
We're going to kill you with electric swords.
The next one gives me some Stone Cold Steve Austin vibes. It is not even just because it says Dallas Police Narcotics on it. It's got the skull and it's got a couple needles and a fucking pot leaf behind it. And it just might be the color scheme too, but it immediately makes me think of some Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirt I had when I was a kid.
Dude, that looks like the Oakland Raiders kind of shit.
Yeah, you're right.
Dude, what's that rapper?
Blaze your dead homie.
Not Space Goes Perp. This can bother me. But a bunch of rappers wear like Oakland Raiders shit, and it'll be like official Oakland Raiders gear, but it'll be like hardcore like versions like this with skulls and like their gang names and shit, and that like they're decked out in the Raider gear. That looks dope as fuck. And that's like the cops version of it, basically.
Asset forfeiture program. You make it, we'll take it. This one, yeah, there's a lot of people that got mad about this one. I like this one. The article underneath it says, the DEA's asset forfeiture program, for instance, has allowed law enforcement agencies to seize millions of dollars in cash and property from citizens without charging them with crimes. The practice has come under criticism from lawmakers in both parties and was recently sharply curtailed by the Justice Department. So the program's patch contains the slogan, "You make it, we'll take it."
That shit's fucked up, and the asset forfeiture program is so fucking bunk, dude.
Yeah. So bunk, we can't even say that shit, dog. Right. I like the next one, dude.
So funny. The DA Technical Operations. It's got a scorpion wearing headphones, and his stinger is like a satellite eavesdropping on a call.
It's so fucked up.
Oh my god. Radio dish for a tail as it listens in the signals from a nearby cell phone tower.
This scorpion is what's watching you through your webcam at all times.
100%.
The Cocaine Intelligence Unit. So this one is the next one that
you might have to get this one.
Yeah, between this one and the ecstasy and party drugs or club drugs one, this one's pretty fucking cool. So it's a Grim Reaper sitting on top of a bomb in a snowstorm, and he's got an hourglass that I assume is filled with coke.
Yeah, there's a razor blade cutting snow into the hourglass.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, cool. Even doper.
Cocaine Intelligence Unit. Oh my god, dude. A Grim Reaper in the snow. This is what our DEA badges are like. Now, I'd imagine a lot of these have been phased out by now.
Oh, yeah.
But some things are still around. For sure. This next one just looks like a mix between Indian and Nazi shit.
I was gonna say, yeah, it reminds me of like some Nazi shit, like some Nazi biker gang shit.
Yeah, looks very.
That's what that reads to me.
The metro area task force group headhunters with a skull going through, or a sword going through a bloody skull with scales of justice hanging out of its mouth.
It's from the DEA's 1st Virginia Cavalry.
Wow.
Yeah, cool. Oh, here, there's another one just underneath it. That's not much better. I don't know, Steven, you think I should get this one?
Oh, man,
with the fucking rebel flag in the back? And he's got a cowboy hat on that says DEA and has crossed fucking needles on it.
Oh, my God. With the Confederate flag. 1st Virginia Cavalry.
Jesus fuck, boys.
How are they allowed to do this?
Someone wore this to work every day and expected people to take them seriously.
Oh man, those are fun though. Well, so if you have to pick, what do you think you're going with?
Man, I'm still leaning on the ecstasy and club drugs one. The cocaine one's cool. I'll have to do some more shopping, and how the prices get. I can't be going into debt for a DEA badge for the fucking walls of it.
I think the one I got, because I think it's probably I don't know about illegal, but I think there's like people doing reprints of them. So I think the one Sarah got me is pretty cheap. I bet you can find, especially these popular ones, for a good price.
I found the Cocaine Intelligence Unit for $9 and DEA. So this one's different. It says ecstasy and predatory drugs. Oh, and then it says Dancing with Darkness underneath it.
I've seen that one. Oh my God.
That one's only $10. I don't know.
Dude, it's so funny. Should we get back to it?
Yeah. Where are we at here? Talking about the police.
Yeah. The police are, the biggest gang on earth, and these patches and imagery are no different than gang colors. On the other side of the fence, we see those who oppose police with their own set of iconography. One of the most obvious and cliche examples of this is the anarchy symbol, which, if you're listening to this podcast, you've almost undoubtedly carved or drew somewhere in your high school.
Yeah, if you are listening to this podcast, you know about the anarchy symbol, and you know about that one S with the lines.
That's funny.
Everyone knew someone that was obsessed with that shit. The symbol composed, so the anarchy symbol, the symbol composed of the capital letter A surrounded by a circle, is universally recognized as the symbol of anarchism and has been established in global youth culture since the 1970s. Cindy Milstein writes that the A represents the Greek anarchia, which means without ruler or authority, and the circle can be read as the letter O, standing for order or organization, a reference to Pierre Joseph Proudhon's definition of anarchism from his 1840 book, What is Property? As man seeks justice and equality, so society seeks order and anarchy. In the 1970s, anarcho-punk and punk rock bands such as Crass began using the circle A symbol in red, thereby introducing it to non-anarchists. Crass founder Penny Rimbaud would later say that the band probably first saw the symbol while traveling through France. That's another one of those symbols. It's like almost as prolific as the swastika, I think. It's so recognizable.
Yeah, obviously in a very different way.
Yeah.
It's very universally recognized.
Right, then Antifa has their own cryptic symbols, but Anonymous really found a strong aesthetic by embracing the Guy Fawkes masks.
I love them.
Yeah, so the Guy Fawkes mask is a stylized depiction of Guy Fawkes, the best-known member of the Gunpowder Plot, which was an attempt to blow up the House of Lords in London on the 5th of November in 1605.
Remember the 5th of November.
Damn right. The use of the mask on an effigy has long roots as part of Guy Fawkes Night celebrations. Illustrator David Lloyd stylized a smiling face with red cheeks, a wide mustache upturned at both ends, and a thin vertical pointed beard. The design came to represent broad protest after it was used in a major plot element in V for Vendetta. And its 2005 film adaptation. After appearing in web forms, it became a well-known symbol for online hacktivist group Anonymous, used in Project Chanology, the Occupy movement, Anonymous for the Voiceless, and other anti-establishment protests around the world. This has led to the popular name Anonymous Mask.
Yeah, actually that QAnon documentary, one of the people tied into it was one of the original founders of Anonymous as well. And it started as something, it started actually as an online group on 4chan, I think, called Anonymous 420. And it was all about like smoking weed and shit, these internet dudes. And then it slowly turned into activism and into Anonymous.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know enough about them and what they've done to praise them one way or another. I know that there have been things that I heard in the past that they did, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool thing for people on the internet to do.
They've done more good than bad, in my opinion, but it's one of those things. There's lots of cells that do things in their name intentionally to hide who they really are. You know what I mean? Like, people do lots of shit in their name. But they've done a lot of cool shit.
The name that is literally, to me, no name.
Right.
It's funny.
I've always really liked the Guy Fawkes masks. I think they're super fun. It's kind of like the British version of the Japanese demon masks.
Yeah. That's a really good allusion to that.
Yeah, and these arts and symbols, they have power. The words have meaning, and that's exactly why like mainstream media loves to focus on all the ACAB graffiti this last year. It holds powerful meaning. Like, whether you agree with it or not, it gets a reaction from people. Yeah. And and the news especially, it's just an open market on selling fear.
Right.
While police may be the biggest gang, the real gangs often have the best art. Lots of gangs have strong aesthetics. I remember being so like entranced and confused, like as a kid walking around Westwood, seeing it was Folk Nation graffiti tags all the time. Yeah, and I was like, what the fuck? They like use the Jewish stars for different reasons, and it's like, what the fuck am I looking at? But it would like, you see that shit and it draws you in. It's art. Yeah, it's art with a meaning.
Sometimes it's prettier than others, but
yeah, that's very true. But without question, I think MS-13 goes the hardest. How do you say their actual name?
Mara Salvatrucha is how I would read that. Salvatrucha.
Commonly known as MS-13, is an international criminal gang that originated in Los Angeles, California in the 1970s and 80s. Originally, the gang was set up to protect Salvadorian immigrants from other gangs in the Los Angeles area. Over time, the gang grew into a more traditional criminal organization. MS-13 is often defined by its cruelty and their wild tattoos. It's kind of like if Yakuza went full body and more thug life.
Right.
Dude, their shit is beautiful. Like, you see them from afar. It's, it's so bold. I love the art they do. I recently heard someone describe their tattoos by saying, it ain't pretty, but it's beautiful. I think that's kind of fair.
Yeah, that's cool.
The members cover themselves in tattoos, including, and very often, the face. Common markings include the MS-13, the devil horns, the name of their cliques, whatever. There definitely is a comparison of their tattoos to a modern-day war paint.
Yeah.
It's so brutal, and it makes people immediately see and often fear them. In our taboo tattoo episode we did earlier on, we went into more details similar to this with the Russian prison tattoos specifically, and how the symbolism and storytelling of tattoos can be so powerful.
Yeah. And like by tattooing someone's face with the symbols of the gang, that it demonstrates, their bravery, their desire to belong to the family, as they call themselves, by permanently assuming the identity of the group, giving up the most remarkable physical characteristics of individuality and identity to carry the marks of your pack in the most visible place of the body, to demonstrate conviction and a strong commitment to the group, and the significance of bravery for having undergone a ritual, painful and with consequences for the rest of your life. By 2007, the gang was moving away from face tattoos to make it easier to commit crime without being noticed. Regardless of what you may think of their actions as an organization, it's impossible to say that their art's not powerful.
Yeah, definitely not like praising MS-13, but
Right.
their art's fucking beautiful. I mean, I love the big Gothic fonts like across the body like that, and they do some cool imagery.
It's definitely some iconic work.
Definitely. And just like MS-13's work is so bold, I think the Arabic language is as beautiful and mysterious to us in the West. This is kind of a jump, but this is kind of bringing us to the flags.
Yeah. So the jihadist flag.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about flags for just a minute here. The jihadist flag is a flag used by various Muslim extremist organizations, usually consisting of a black background with a white text of the Shahada. I meant to look up the correct way to pronounce that earlier, and I forgot. But it's the Islamic creed, emblazoned across it in calligraphy-style writing. Its usage was widely adopted by jihadists in the early 2000s, and in the 2010s by the Islamic State. Terrorist organizations which have used such a black flag or similar variants include Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, the Islamic State of Iraq, and the Levant, which is just ISIS.
ISIL also.
Yeah, ISIL. And Hizbul Islam. Now, I think we made a strong jump there, and I do want to say I think the calligraphy in the Arabic language absolutely gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
It doesn't, because of the complete differences in language, it doesn't translate as letters to me. But it's a gorgeous typeface, I guess.
And it feels so exotic and mysterious, and that's, I don't know, I feel like to a lot of people that might sound very ignorant, but to people who don't know the language, it has a very real effect.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of people think of it as like an evil thing, and I think what we're both, or at least I'm not saying very well, is I find it gorgeous. It's so beautiful, especially the masters of Arabic calligraphy. That's just amazing.
Yeah, they familiarity with the Arabic language is not something they teach you in American public schools.
Right.
It's not one of the language choices you get to learn. So it would be an exotic kind of a thing for us here.
The designs of these flag, it's often a black banner with white Arabic writing. The ones you see online in images posted by the militants. It's a black rectangle, and it often has 2 or sometimes 3 lines of writing, typically in white. Some of the newer ones have like a yellow, like on certain lines of font, or like another like bright color, but most of the time it's just white on black. The top line often says there's no God except for God. In the middle, there's often there's a sort of rough circle that often says Muhammad is the messenger of God. Then sometimes below you have a line of much fancier writing that says the state of the Islamic Caliphate. It's become so iconic now that the sight of it instills fear to many people. The power of this flag's propaganda cannot be understood.
Understated.
Understated, thank you. It's almost like a pirate flag. Isolated, the calligraphy is so damn beautiful, but on the hard black flag, the juxtaposition comes off so brutal. And obviously, all the acts of terror committed under this banner are why it has become such a symbol of hatred.
Right. Psychology discusses the effect of symbols on the human mind, and it gives insight into why the rhetoric of terrorism may be conducted partly through symbols. An overview of psychology of symbols is relevant to terrorism because it is in the mind that symbols find validation, and reality, allowing terrorist attacks creates an effect on a wide audience.
Real quick, I got one that's kind of relevant. So
yeah,
I remember a while back, there were studies of they were doing studies of addicts' brains so they would have people addicted to various substances in MRI scans, and they would flash pictures of different things to see how your brain would react. And like just seeing pictures of drugs and shit of your, you know, your choice of addiction would stimulate your brain as if you were doing small amounts of that substance.
Oh, that's wild.
And like the psychology of the mind with that, like seeing symbols can have like a biological effect. They can be very powerful.
Yeah. The influence of images on humans have long been studied by art historians. David Friedberg argues that humans react to images not simply on a cognitive level, but on an emotional one. Additionally, the psychology of persuasion has noted that if people see a symbol of authority, even if they know the groups or persons projecting the symbol has no actual authority, they begin to believe that there is real authority in that party. Both of these theories contribute to arguments scholars have made about the role of psychology in terrorism by helping to explain why humans react to terrorist attacks. Psychology also contributes to the understanding of how visual propaganda put forward by terrorist groups contributes to their organization. In the book Psychology of Terrorism, author Randy Borum argues that projecting an image of solidarity and power makes terrorist groups more attractive as social collectives, even if the person joining the group does not at the outset believe in its ideology. A sense of belonging is one of the primary motivating factors for people joining terrorist groups. It's the same with, a lot of gang affiliation as well.
Definitely.
Many symbols cited by the Islamic Imagery Project and the International Terrorist Symbols Database reference this notion of community or belonging.
Yeah. And in a very similar way, like the pirates were masters of psychology. They did so much weird shit with their imagery that had these psychological effects on their enemy.
Yeah, the Vikings were big on that too.
Oh yeah, dude, their whole thing with eating the mushrooms to trip out and go into battle is so cool.
Right.
That's so brutal. The pirate brand has long been tied to the skulls and crossbones, the Jolly Roger, as a symbol of terror on the high seas. A 2011 article in the New York Times hails the ominous design as a magnificent exercise in collective hybrid branding, noting that economics drove the pirates to adopt a version of that particular symbol to facilitate their intent to plunder. It's a fascinating discussion on the efficacy and power of good branding. A version of the Jolly Roger was widely adopted by pirates for fraternal reasons. Some 2,500 men sailed under a version of a black flag bearing the insignia of a white skeleton striking a bleeding heart with one hand and holding an hourglass. The flag certainly meant to announce their presence, and the pirates, enterprising men that they were, quickly found that they could convey their intents to ships in their path with their banners. Contrary to popular belief, black flags often indicated that the pirates would consider providing quarter to men who surrendered, while red flag, bearing the insignia previously described, meant that no quarter would be given and the mates were meant to fight till the end. However, the imagery chosen for the flag is as much a reflection of the pirates and their lifestyle as a reflection of their terrible natures.
It was the flag was intended to terrify the pirates' prey, but its triad of interlocking symbols, death, violence, limited time, simultaneously pointed to the meaningful parts of the seaman's experience, eloquently bespoke the pirates' own consciousness of themselves as preyed upon in turn. Pirates seized the symbol of mortality from ship captains who used the skull as a marginal sign in their logs to indicate the record of a death. Seamen who became pirates escaped from one closed system only to find themselves encased in another. But as pirates, and only as pirates, these men were able to fight back beneath these somber colors of King Death against those captains, merchants, and officials who waved banners of authority.
It's all dueling symbols.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pirates are also known for sometimes going into battle naked, and they would like get naked and like appear crazed and drunk in an attempt to scare their enemy off as they're trying to board them, kind of thing.
You know, when you're in the battle with seamen.
We did pretty good at not laughing at that.
Yeah, I thought about it.
It's all a theater of war performance art, but with real life consequences of death. Public executions have been used throughout all of history to scare the public and keep people in line, like the burning of the witches, the electric chair, or beheading someone by guillotine. It's all just a show. I always thought the quartered horses thing was like especially brutal. Like to have you in a town square like that and have you pulled apart by horses or whatever.
Yeah, that's real fucked up. That's some real fucked up shit.
Yeah. Do you know the brazen bull?
Yes, I know about the brazen bull.
Oh, dude, that's one of my favorites, though. It was a torture and execution device designed by the ancient Greece as a new means of executing criminals, which is so ridiculous. The bull was said to be hollow and made entirely out of bronze with a door on one side. According to legend, the brazen bull was designed in the form and size of an actual bull. And the crazy part was it had an acoustic apparatus that converted steam into the sound of a bull. So
that screams.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So like the person being burned alive in it would scream, and out of the bull it would sound like a bull yelling. That's
so fucked. It's honestly that just gives me shivers.
Oh, I know.
That's a terrifying one.
That one's brutal. The condemned were locked inside the device and fire was set under, heating the metal until the person was roasted to death. Some modern scholars question if the brazen bull actually existed or not, attributing reports of the invention to early propaganda. So that's interesting. Even if it didn't exist, the stories of it were a form of propaganda.
Yeah. That one and the two of the ways that I've always thought would be one of the worst possible ways to die. So there's that one, and then scaphicism, that's the one where they put little cuts all over your body, and then put you in a hollowed out boat with a lid on it, basically, and they cover you in honey, and then push you out. Cover you in honey and excrement. So. As your wounds are open, and you're covered in all this honey and excrement and shit, they push you out into the, a waterway of some type and like a bog, and then bugs will come and eat at you while you lie in a pile of your own filth and that's basically brutal. Infect to death.
Do you get eaten? Like, that sounds so similar to the being buried to your head with the honey kind of
thing. I mean, I'm sure... To a degree, I assume you would die from. I mean, it was supposed to last for days, so you would probably die from dehydration before anything.
There's a handful of ways you could go from that one.
Yeah, that's a rough one. Hopefully, you die from dehydration. That would probably be the quickest.
Ugh.
So these theatrical tortures thing, it's meant to keep the powerful in control. Going back to the Romans, Emperor Nero was one of the most brutal. I know Nero's your boy. On the night of July 19th, 64 AD, a fire broke out among Rome's mammoth chariot stadium. Fires in Rome was a regular occurrence, but this one was different. The flames raged for 6 days before coming under control. Then the fire reignited and burned for another 3. When the smoke cleared, 10 of Rome's 14 districts were in ruin. 2/3 of Rome had been destroyed. History has blamed Nero for the disaster, implying that he started the fire so that he could bypass the Senate and rebuild Rome to his liking. Nero himself blamed the fire on an obscure new Jewish religious sect called the Christians. He blamed Christians of starting the fire to remove suspicion from himself. According to this account, many Christians were arrested and brutally executed by being thrown to the beasts, crucified, and being burned alive. During gladiator matches, he would feed Christians to lions, and he often lit his garden parties with the burning carcasses of Christian human torches.
That's so fucking awesome.
That's so fucking brutal.
So brutal.
What an absolute mad lad.
Oh, it's crazy as fuck. It just like the even normal run-of-the-mill crucifixion is barbaric as shit.
Yeah.
Like what Jesus, quote unquote, Jesus, the desert wizard went through was insane. But what we often like don't like think about is what he went through was like not abnormal. This was just done to like minor criminals on a regular basis. And mankind's history is just metal as fuck. Like, we're a terrible race of people. Like,
but I also realized what we didn't put in here was Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah,
Vlad the old school. That's why I said Mad Lad, and I thought, oh, Mad Lad Vlad. He fucking impale you through the anus to the neck as you slowly slide down on it and die. You know, he had fields of them around his castle, like to just soldiers would turn around, whole entire armies would say like, nah, we ain't going in there. Fuck that shit.
This shit. Which Queen Elizabeth is it? The one that bathed in blood?
Oh, I don't fucking remember that.
She'd like kill virgins and like.
Oh, Queen Mary of Scots.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, Bloody Mary.
Yeah. That's wild. Yeah, Vlad.
Fact checking
Vlad's
that shit.
Especially brutal.
Oh, that's it's not Queen Mary of Scots. That's
not,
I'm glad I looked that shit up.
Isn't it Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah, Bathory. That's where Bathory came from.
Yeah.
I think the Blood Eagle is definitely among the top most brutal arts of war. It's definitely a thing of legend. Scandinavian Vikings would use the blood eagle as a ritual method of execution. It was detailed in Scandinavian poetry, and it's mentioned multiple times in the sagas. The victims in both cases were members of the royal families. And some people debate how true it was, but there seems to be a lot of evidence, and it's definitely made it as like a lasting story in modern movies and shows and shit. But the victim was placed in a prone position, the ribs severed from the spine with a sharp tool, and their lungs pulled through the opening to create a pair of wings. And the wings would pulse.
Did you ever watch Vikings?
Yeah, dude. Love it.
Yeah,
it's fun as fuck.
That was the selling point when someone told me about Vikings. Like from the first season, they were like, dude, they just did this thing called a blood eagle. Have you ever heard of that? I was like, no. And they described it. I was like, oh, that's fucked up.
I'm going to watch that shit.
Yeah, now. I guess I'm going to have to watch that.
I like the snake pits a lot too.
Yeah, that was some scary shit right there, man.
Yeah.
You need some power to get them snakes too. You need some connections during those times.
Definitely. So the sequence of a blood eagle, it was so inventive, and it was designed for maximum horror. Like to see your lungs, like you might not die immediately. Sometimes you would, but to see your lungs breathing, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so brutal. Beautiful and brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's I like the idea of it, and at least in the show Vikings, they talked about like it was almost an atonement kind of situation where like if someone fucked up and they did, they'd give them a blood eagle, and if they didn't, yell out in pain, then they could still go to Valhalla. It was like, oh, that's pretty dope.
And I think that
a cool idea
is like mythos.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's very romantic. I love it.
So there is, it's the whole fucking Nordic thing is real fucking vicious.
Yeah, dude, have you seen any of these viral TikToks?
I haven't. I know that there was recently there was a viral video on TikTok depicting something similar.
Yes, this dude's. There was one where she's getting her limbs cut off one by one, and there's another one where they're pulling out a dude's lungs while he's alive. And all these kids are sharing it on TikTok. It's all cartel shit.
That's so fucked. I don't... If there's so many, brutal public execution and hanging stuff that's, it's already videos online and places and, shit, but, they're fucking viral videos on TikTok.
Feels TikTok, it's too much. Too much.
Yeah, that's too much, guys.
Yeah.
Save TikToks for the TikToked. Am I right?
What about the shrunken heads? It's very arts and crafty.
Yeah. It's very arts and craftsy.
It's so crafty. I remember like the first time seeing them in a movie might have been like fucking Indiana Jones or some dumb shit, but thinking like, there's no way that's real. They look like cartoony. But in real life, that would be freaky as fuck.
Yeah, my first introduction to the Shrunken Heads thing was when I was real young. I was way into Ripley, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I had a book, and there was like a 2-page full color, section of this book that they were talking about the Shrunken Heads, and they had pictures and shit. And it's fucked up. Yeah. A shrunken head is a severed and specially prepared human head that is used for trophy, ritual, or trade purposes. Head hunting has occurred in many regions of the world, but the practice of head shrinking has only been documented in the northwestern region of the Amazon rainforest. I'm going to destroy this name. Hiva-Rowan peoples, which include the Shuar, Akwar, and Hombisa, and Aguaruna is how I'm going to think that those are supposed to be.
You're a better man than I am.
Boy, I think that's not bad. Tribes from Ecuador and Peru are known to have shrunken human heads. Many tribe leaders would show off their collection of heads to scare enemies.
That'll do it.
Now, I do want to put this one in here. We don't get lots of emails, but if someone hears me say those tribe names from the Ecuadorian and Peruvian tribe names, and they know how to pronounce that right, and if I don't care if I was wrong or right, let me know, because I feel like I did a good job. So Steven, tell me how I can make my own shrunken heads at home.
Yeah, I found a bunch of YouTube videos that were like really in depth that broke down every step, and it doesn't take that long. Like in fact, if you boil it too long, you'll mess it up. Like you can make them in a couple days or whatever. But the process of creating shrunken heads begins with removing the skull from the neck. An incision is made on the back of the ear, and all the skin and flesh is removed from the cranium. Red seeds are placed underneath the nostrils, and the lips are sewn shut. The mouth is held together with 3 palm pins. Fat from the flesh of the head is removed. Then a wooden ball is placed into the flesh in order to keep the form. The flesh is then boiled in water that has been saturated with a number of herbs containing tannins. The head is then dried with hot rocks and sand while holding it to retain its human features. The skin is then rubbed down with charcoal ash. Decorative beads may be added to the head.
You may decorate it as you like.
It is then believed that coating the skin in ash keeps the soul from seeking out. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's fun. So
yeah, Dahmer did similar shit.
Yeah. Shrunken heads are known for their mandibular prognathism, which is a facial distortion and shrinkage of the lateral sides on the forehead. These are artifacts of the shrinking process that it goes through. Very similar to the necklaces of ears and fingers kind of shit during war, like scalpings.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of the fingers and ears shit going on in Vietnam and the jungle, and the scalpings, that was more World War II, right?
Yeah. I think that was also a thing. I feel like it was attributed with Native Americans doing scalpings. Definitely. I don't know how true that is, though.
I think there's elements of truth to it. I think it gets exaggerated a lot. But there are also I think it was a thing also to scalp Nazis.
I mean, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Isn't that actually, that's the plot of that one of those movies, isn't it?
It is. The Jews would scalp the Nazis. I forget what movie that is.
Yeah, the one with Brad Pitt. Yeah.
The
Bear Jew.
yeah.
Anyway, it's very serial killer like that, like collecting trophies and stuff like that.
Definitely. And serial killers use these same tactics, but it's a much more intimate and personal way. Not a good way, but that's what it is. This is often a direct result of the methods used to meet their own devious sexual desires. It often results in the creation of a calling card. This is often a way to claim their kills and bait police, while at the same time scaring the public with their artistic gore. Jack the Ripper is definitely a kind of the first big example of this, outside of like people like Vlad that are really serial killers, but they're, in positions of power. Like, I feel like Jack the Ripper's kind of the classic everyday serial killer.
Yeah.
And while Jack's case still remains unofficially solved, many experts believe to have narrowed it down to a handful of suspects. There's still some debate on the exact person. The victim's throat were cut prior to abdominal mutilations of his victims. He removed internal organs from at least 3 of the victims, and this led to proposals that the killer had some anatomical or surgical knowledge. Stories of Jack tying bows in the organs became legend, and the method of murder and level of mutilation became his calling card. Some other famous examples include BTK, Bind, Torture, Kill.
Yep.
What a piece of shit. He was a Dennis Rader. He worked at a church.
Of course he did.
The the floppy disk.
Oh yeah.
That got him busted. He fell for the police telling that he should send something in on a floppy disk, and he left his fingerprints on it. I think, but they're able to track it back to his computer at the rectory of which he worked at. Dennis Rader used 3 letters from his killer's name, Bind, Torture, Kill, and the letters were arranged to create breasts, and he used this symbol as his signature in things he would taunt the media and police with.
Yeah.
It's like, what? I mean, it's so fucking brutal. It's clever branding for a serial killer, but
right.
What the fuck?
And like BTK, the Zodiac killer, which was Zodiac was a name that he gave himself. He used a symbol resembling a circle, like a cross, kind of like a gun crosshair, to sign the end of his letters to newspapers. Zodiac is just one of the most famous examples of a killer using cryptic symbols in his ciphers and that contained hidden messages for the police and the public. And actually, this year, the famous 340 cipher was just finally decrypted 51 years after it was published.
Yeah, dude, that shit is crazy.
Yeah.
This team it wasn't solved by the cops. It was just a team of dudes. Like, there's all these code groups, and they've been trying to get this one forever. So they finally cracked the 340 cipher, and it was just full of fucking gibberish bullshit.
Yeah, it wasn't even anything, like, significant, I think.
Some of the other ones had some significant things, but it's still just all crazy bullshit. Richard Ramirez was super known for his satanic imagery. He would leave it at the crime scenes. We definitely would be remiss if we didn't mention Charles Manson, the famous Red Rum and Kill Pigs, or whatever the fuck his followers wrote in blood at the murders.
Yeah.
He also made use of the swastika, of course, at his circus of a trial. Manson was a failed musician. I think some people missed that a lot, but he was a musician, and he was trying to get a record deal, basically. But he did have a couple of decent songs, even though he was too crazy to get a for real album or record made. But he had a couple decent songs. But after his conviction, he no longer could make music in prison. So he made visual arts, folding paper and doing paper collage. I think he was doing like paper collage scorpions and things. And like, I kind of forget exactly what it was. None of it was like great art.
Of course.
But like every day, like they say it was like a form of torture in a way, because every day he'd make art and then the guards would steal it. And the guards would steal his art and then sell it on eBay for large sums of money.
Oh, wow.
And like, I believe some of those guards actually got in some pretty decent trouble for it.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked.
Yeah, because like a killer cannot be in prison and make money off their crime. There's laws about that. So you can't like make a movie, an autobiography of your shit after you're in prison and make money from it. But sometimes the money can go to victims groups and shit. But the guards can't steal art from a serial killer and sell it. Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah. And as far as the artistic things on Jesus fuck. Serial killers.
Yeah.
Fucking Ed Gein. Ed Gein was one of my first, was probably the serial, Jesus Christ, why can't I say serial killer? He was the one that got me interested in learning about them and like reading watching documentaries and reading biographies and stuff. The lampshades and shit, the fucking, the skin suits and stuff.
Nipple belts.
Yeah, nipple belts. It's so like bowls out of skulls. It's like all the the what's it called, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre shit.
Yeah, it inspired so many horror movie things.
Yeah,
he was like a Hugo Boss wannabe, Lil Ed Gein.
Yeah, man.
He only killed, I forget, it's either one or two people. I think it's only one.
I think we had this argument, or we discussed the same question on a different episode.
I have the book here, but
I think it's two.
It might be two. But he's not technically a serial killer. You need three. But he's like one of the most famous serial killers. But he had all this art shit he did with skin. Two,
yeah.
Two, I believe it. He had all this skin and shit from bodies because he was digging up corpses in the graveyards.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked.
Yeah.
Ed Gein, you're a wild motherfucker.
Wild motherfucker. John Wayne Gacy was also very well known for his art. After he was arrested in prison, he did all these creepy paintings of his character Pogo the Clown that later sold for a fucking ton of money, and they were stolen all the time and used by metal bands as album covers.
Yeah.
Which is both cool and terrible. It's also worth noting that after the fucking idiot George Bush retired from his presidency, he got really into painting. Yeah. And I think he also qualifies as a serial killer. Honestly, for a president, he's not that bad, but then again, neither was Hitler at all. At art.
You heard it here first, your folks. Steven said Hitler wasn't all that bad.
At art. Dude, he was a very talented artist. He just wasn't quite good enough.
Did you ever see the episode of It's Always Sunny where they had the original Hitler?
Yes. Oh my God, so funny.
That's some funny shit.
Dude, yeah. Look at George Bush's shit. Oh, it's worse than I remembered. It's worse than I remembered. Yeah, he's getting better, though.
Is he still painting?
He is, dude. He just, like, the last couple months, he did this big portrait series of immigrants.
Oh, yeah, you can see him where he's starting to use different, like, tonal shading things.
It's almost like a pop modern portrait style. But they all look like a little TikToked.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Little Bell's palsy going on.
That's some brutal shit, man.
Oh, what a psycho. Yeah, fuck George Bush. Fuck Hitler. What about the skull castles?
Skull castles. Well, the one I found in particular, in Prague, the Sedlik ossuary. It's a small Roman Catholic chapel located beneath the Cemetery Church of All Saints in the Czech Republic. The ossuary is, am I saying that word right? Ossuary?
I think so.
You don't fucking know. It's estimated to contain the skeletons of between 40,000 and 70,000 people whose bones had been artistically arranged to form decorations and furnishings for the chapel. 4 enormous bell-shaped mounds occupy the corners of the chapel. An enormous chandelier of bones, which contains at least one of every bone in the human body, hangs from the center of the nave with garlands of skulls draping the vault. Other works include piers and monstrances flanking the altar and a coat of arms of the House of Schwarzenberg. And this all started in 1278. A monk arrived with a small amount of earth that he claimed he had removed from the land where Jesus had been crucified and sprinkled it over the abbey cemetery. The word soon spread, and the cemetery in Sedlec became a desirable burial site throughout Central Europe. In the mid-14th century, during the Black Death, after the Hussite Wars in the early 15th century, many thousands were buried in this abbey cemetery, so it had to be greatly enlarged. At around 1400, a Gothic church was built in the center of the cemetery where a vaulted upper level and a lower chapel to be used as an ossuary for mass graved was used for mass graved unearthed during construction. In 1870, Franzitek Rent, a woodcarver, was employed by the Schwarzenberg family to put the bone heaps into order, yielding a macabre result. The signature of Rent, also executed in bone, appears on the wall near the entrance to the chapel. Fucking brutal artist.
Wow.
Glorious
I did not know
shit.
The origins of that.
Yeah, that's
so cool.
I feel like I've seen pictures of it my whole life.
Right.
And to actually take the time to look into the story of it. I think what was funny, the different sources I looked up for this one had the story of the monk and had like their name and their mission and everything. The other one was like, supposedly this is how it happened, but most of it's bullshit, and they were trying to get people to, come use, pay money to use this cemetery.
Interesting.
I was like, okay, that's funny.
I love that church, though. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
Next, we're going to look at, this is kind of just a foreshadowing on something we're going to be talking about more in depth soon.
This is Steven's other friend.
Yeah, General Butt Naked.
You heard that right, folks.
This dude is crazy. So he is a warlord, I believe, in Liberia. I know it's in Africa, but this dude led battles against other warlord groups. This is like modern day shit. He's still alive, but his people, he was called Butt Naked because he would get naked before battle, and all of the boys he led, they would cover themselves in blood, sacrifice a baby, chop up its heart, eat it, drink alcohol, snort cocaine and gunpowder, and run into battle naked. Like, the psychology of that terror, it's insanity. So he's still alive, and the country forgave him for all of his war crimes because he helped unite people, and now he's involved in Christian church building. It's
Jesus.
Wild. So Vice did a documentary on him and his history, and it's very interesting, and I would like to take a more in-depth look at him soon.
We absolutely will.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I got a section here on the Berlin Wall graffiti.
Yeah.
The Berlin Wall was constructed in 1961 to separate West Berlin and East Berlin during the Cold War. All the differences between the countries made it a perfect place for people to express their opinions, especially on their preferences and dislikes. In the 1980s, the wall was reconstructed and made 14 feet tall. Graffitiing on the wall became popular for artists from all over the world and a place where tourists would go and admire the artwork. The West Berlin side of the wall had artwork completely covering the wall, while the East Berlin side was kept blank because people were not permitted to get close enough to the east side of the wall to paint anything, which is pretty fucking wild to begin with there. There's and of course we can't. It's not a Trash Cats episode without mentioning Banksy. I think even when we started talking about doing this podcast about art, I was like, man, I hope it just doesn't turn into, us talking about Banksy all the fucking time.
Rascal comes up. He pops up.
Man, he's everywhere. Banksy originally painted the flower chucker or flower thrower on the West Bank barrier, and that is a wall separating Israel from the West Bank. Similar to in fashion to the Berlin Wall situation. I'm pretty sure it now resides in Berlin, the original flower chucker, which I think is I feel like it's one of the ones that Banksy's most proud of. And one of I think it was one of their books they put out that's on the cover. It's one of the main titular pictures.
And I like that piece more than a lot of stuff.
It's one of the OG ones I remember from high school.
Yeah. Now, what is this? The flower power? Is this the photograph?
Yeah, that's the photograph. That's the hippies with flowers.
Yeah, so there's a photo called Flower Power taken on October 21st, 1967, during the National Mobilization Committee to End the War in Vietnam's March on the Pentagon. The photo shows a Vietnam War protester, George Harris, placing a carnation into the barrel of an M14 rifle held by a soldier of the 503rd Military Police Battalion. Those are iconic as fuck.
Yeah.
Those things are powerful.
And people did that. I think more people did that later on. What movie was it?
Definitely.
There's a movie where it starts off with a girl walking up to a line of soldiers and putting a flower into the barrel, and then they end up pulling the trigger, which is, not what happened in reality.
No. I don't know that one.
It's one of those war movies, I think.
Yeah. This is a more recent one.
So this was a more recent one. Yeah. So The Naked Protester. It was 1:45 a.m. in Portland during the protest last year. Officers stood across the intersection facing the group of protesters. Then a naked woman appeared. She walked out to the intersection in front of where police were standing. She was wearing only a face mask and a stocking cap while she was facing the police. She paced the area near the crosswalk, and she laid down, kicking up her feet. She's been dubbed by some as Naked Athena. Jen, as she wants to be known, said she acted on impulse and anger in a heated moment. One Portland policeman shot her in the foot with rubber balls, so she sat down and lifted her leg in the air to show him the blood. Then she got up and lifted her leg again. She says, "I was calm and terrified at the same time, like being in the eye of a storm." She then sat back down on the pavement and spread her legs wide. She was not, as several news outlets reported, doing yoga. She says it was more like, "Shoot this, look at this." Another protester ran out in front of her with a homemade shield, but she sidestepped him and his shield. The whole time, one of the reporters said he didn't hear her say a word. After about 10 minutes, 10 minutes after she arrived, the officers left. The woman soon left after without any additional fanfare. She wasn't arrested for that one.
I feel like I might have heard she got arrested later.
Yeah, maybe afterward. Maybe.
But either way, like the news circulated that so much because it's powerful.
Right.
It's powerful imagery. It's the same thing with the Superman dude.
Yeah.
That dude just, he was a vet, I believe, and he was walking up to the police and being trying to talk with them. And they sprayed him with so much fucking mace, and it's like 4 dudes batoning him, and he just stands there like he's made out of iron, flicking them off, not going down. Not hitting back either, just standing strong.
53-year-old Navy war vet.
Wow.
It's fucking brutal. Yeah, he just took that shit, man. Like a fucking champ, man. Like he wasn't human. That's some brutal shit.
Dude, we saw so many graphic images this last year.
Yeah.
So much shit.
The world was a wild fucking place last year. I mean, every year, but
yeah.
The media was full of some crazy shit. Every day was a new adventure.
Did you see what is that show? The All Gas No Brakes?
Yeah.
The interview of the riots where there's that burning building and it's like him asking a kid how he feels, and he's like, this is how we feel inside. And it's something like so fucking powerful.
Yeah.
He's like, they don't get it. This is how we feel. But it was like by fucking All Gas No Brakes, and it was just so fucking powerful and relevant. So good.
Yeah, we want to. I want to. He's on his own shit now too. He's not doing All Gas No Brakes anymore. That reporter had to start his own thing. Yeah. Andrew something, I forget his last name, but
he's a weird person, man.
Yeah,
I like him.
He does some good fucking interviews. That's the kind of interviews I want to see with some of the fucking. I don't know how he finds these fucking people.
You want to tell us about the Chinese Skynet?
Yeah, let's talk about Skynet. So Skynet is an artificial neural network-based conscious group in mind and artificial general superintelligence system that serves as the antagonistic force of the Terminator franchise. I left that in there because I thought it was funny and it came up in my search results.
But for real, the Chinese government they decided they wanted to have the good version of Skynet from Terminator.
Exactly. So in 2005, the Chinese government created a mass surveillance system called Skynet. The government revealed Skynet's existence in 2013, which by the time the network included over 20 million cameras. In addition to monitoring the general public, cameras were installed outside mosques in the Xinjiang region, temples in Tibet, and the homes of dissidents. As of 2019, it is estimated that 200 million CCTV cameras of the Skynet system had been put to use in mainland China, 4 times as many as the surveillance cameras in the United States. China claims that Skynet is the largest video surveillance system in the world, utilizing facial recognition technology.
Dude, have you seen videos of it? How it works?
No.
Dude, so there's kids all throughout China that even their school uniforms have GPS trackers in it that can tell when you go to the bathroom, what doors you go through, where you go after school, all that shit. But if you jaywalk, you have a social credit score, just like the Black Mirror episode. You have a social credit score, and if you jaywalk in the street, a photo of you from a camera will display you on a screen so everyone on the street can see it, and you lose social credit points. When you walk into federal buildings, they either have facial recognition or a cop wearing a Google Glass that shows your credit score. It rates your attractiveness, your sex, gender, religion, how much money you have, all your shit. And it all goes into these different analytics, and you're just being tracked constantly. And now they have all these fucking Muslims in internment camps, and it's like, dude, we will never get to go to China because it's so much evil shit is happening right there. Yeah. It's crazy. I don't get why that isn't in the news more, because there's so much shit right there. Straight diabolical evil. It's not the people of China, but the government of China is out of control.
On that shit, man.
Completely. Now, we're kind of just jumping around, but we're getting towards the end here a little bit. This is Theater of War. Plague cannons.
Plague cannons. It's so good. I was so happy when I saw you type this into the notes, and I was like, yes, please let me look up some shit about plague cannons.
Fuck yes. One of the first recorded uses of biological warfare occurred in 1347, when Mongol forces are reported to have captured plague-infested bodies catapulted over the walls into the Black Sea port of Kaffa, now Ukraine. Some historians believe that ships from the besieged city returned to Italy with the plague, starting the Black Death pandemic that swept through Europe over the next 4 years and killed some 25 million people, about 1/3 of the population. Deceased cadavers hurled into the city could easily have transmitted plague. as defenders handled the cadavers during disposal. Contact with infected materials is a known mechanism of transmission. Very large numbers of bodies were possibly involved, greatly increasing the opportunity for disease transmission. Since disposal of the bodies of victims in a major outbreak of lethal disease is always a problem, the Mongol forces may have used their hurling machines as a solution to their mortuary problem, in which case many thousands of cadavers have been involved. The description of mountains of dead may have quite literally been true. Ah, it's so fucking brutal.
There's actually, so there's a lot of debate apparently though, going back and forth about, was it the Mongol forces that caused the Black Death sweep during that time period, or was it, rodent to rodent transfer from neighboring platoons in the war? And the science further more supports that it was because of this event rather than from rodent to rodent transfer, because they were too far away for the rodent to rodent transfer to make such an impact. But yeah, just throwing fucking plague infested bodies over the wall just to get rid of them.
Oh, man.
And then the Mongol forces retreated after that. They didn't even stick around and win the war. They just they basically dumped their shit and dipped.
Yeah, that's like
and then killed one third of the population of Europe.
Jesus Christ, man! The biological warfare to begin with is so fucking brutal, but these early crude versions of it are wild. Like the rubbing your in war, dipping your bullets and shit.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I don't know how effective that really is, but I mean, just the ideas of that
increases fucking chance of infection. Yeah,
for sure. So I think that kind of gets us to the end. I know a lot of these later examples were very abstract, but all these things, it's all the war and theater of the art of war, the art of terror. So many topics.
It's mostly just a big list of shit we wanted to talk about.
Shit I've thought about all week. Is there anything you want to say before we start making our outro?
Nah, go ahead. Give us that good outro tune.
All right, we're going to close out on a quote by my homie Friedrich Nietzsche from one of my favorite books, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. He has heart who knows fear, vanquishes it, who sees the abyss but with pride. He who sees the abyss but with eagle's eyes, he who with eagle's talons grasps the abyss, he has courage. Facing war. Facing the art of war, we can find courage.
Some brutal shit. Scary as fuck. Got some dishonors this week?
Yeah, fuck Hugo Boss. I'm still on the fence about Dr. Seuss, to be honest.
Cancel him. Cancel him immediately. Recall it all. Green eggs and ham? No thank you, Sam I Am.
Fuck the rebel flag. Fuck the Nazis. Fuck QAnon. Do you have any other ones?
Yeah,
fuck the DEA.
Yeah, fuck the DEA. Fuck a bigot all day long. Thanks again for listening.
Do we know what we're talking about next week?
We talked about a couple different ones.
We're doing it.
Okay, cool. Or I think we're gonna do depression next week.
'Cause I've got depression.
Yeah.
Have you heard that song?
No.
We'll get a laugh out of it. We'll find a way to make it fun.
All right, cool. So thank you to Approaching Human for the use of his music. You can find his work on SoundCloud at Approaching-Human.
Thank you, John.
Make sure to check out the show page at Trashcats Trashcast on Instagram for news and art from the show.
If you're super bored, you can check out my trashy biologically infected art at Skyzix, SKYZICX.
Damn right.
I think that's it. Next week, we're going to do our episode on why depression is dumb and some mental health shit.
Man, depression fucking rules, dude. Super cool.
Fuck yeah. All right, that's going to be all for us today. Stay classy, eat trashy.
Peace out.
Go fast, eat trash. See ya.